There's something wonderful about nostalgia in the way that it's able to take our most fondest memories and make them that much more memorable and special. But it goes just beyond the memories. Sounds, smell, movies and video games can all take us back to that special moment, and with it bring back a rush of memories and emotions. But equally, certain times of the year bring with them a desire to listen to music or play video games or watch movies that we associate with that time of year. For me, one of those associations is spy video games. And I think it all stems from the fact that so many spy video games seem to have that customary snow level. But equally back to when I opened Siphon Filter on Christmas Eve of 1999. You see, we've always had this family tradition where we'd be sitting down on Christmas Eve waiting for the clock to turn 12 AM as the day turned to Christmas. And when it did, we would all open a single Christmas present each before we'd go to bed ready for the big day. That year, I chose the package that I knew was a PlayStation game. And it turned out to be Siphon Filter, which was absolutely no surprise as I'd been pestering my mum for it for days and days and weeks. But I was still so excited to play it to the early hours of Christmas morning. Following on, I would always ask for a spy game for Christmas, open it on Christmas Eve and play it to the early hours of Christmas morning. For a few years, each year a new James Bond game would be coming out, and for those years, that made the choice of my Christmas video game. This has all given me a strong nostalgia for spy video games, and especially the 007 video games around Christmas time. So kick off your shoes and relax your socks for the Chronik Spartan Christmas special review of James Bond Nightfire. On the 24th of December 2002, me and my family sat around watching Christmas Eve TV as we waited for the clock to turn 12 AM so we could each pass around a single present and open it before Christmas Day. My turn came around and everybody knew which present I was going to be going for. After all, I'd done the same thing for the past 3 Christmases. I also had a pretty good idea of what was going to be hiding behind that wrapping paper. But that didn't take away any of the excitement. In fact, I think it amplified it. So I ripped back the wrapping paper and there it was. James Bond Nightfire on the PlayStation 2. Now the previous year I'd gotten James Bond Agent Under Fire and I absolutely loved that game, playing through the single player campaign. But what was more special was that on that Christmas Day, I remember my sister and her brother-in-law saw me playing and asked if they could join in too. I'd not really played video games with them before, so it was a nice surprise. So I got a couple of extra controllers, plugged in the multi-tap and away we went, and we had an absolute blast. So this year I was extra excited to get a brand new James Bond game. That night I started off in the story mode and instantly got sucked in. You start off in a helicopter where you have to protect some random sports car that's racing away from these generic goons in blacked out SUVs. Acting as a bit of a tutorial, you're tasked with shooting out tyres and blowing up petrol tanks in a series of set pieces. Straight after, you save the damsel in distress and bring around your remote controlled Aston Martin, which kicks off the next section, which is a driving section through the streets of Paris. Driving your Aston Martin, you're smashing through stores and taking out goons. The level is very linear, given really only 1 or 2 alternate routes, and the handling is quite wooden and binary. However, the whole section is surprisingly exciting and satisfying as you blast your way through the streets using your weapons and Q gadgets. It actually reminded me a lot of the first Spy Hunter on the PlayStation 2. Once you've completed this section, you jump straight into a cutscene, which is full of that wonderful James Bond cheese and innuendo, as you sit with your rescued damsel, watching the Eiffel Tower, drinking champagne, as the New Year's Eve fireworks light up the night sky. And then rolls the Nightfire intro. The intro is actually spot on when it comes to James Bond intros. It has the artistic, sultry silhouettes of dancing ladies, and a surprisingly good theme tune. You see, Nightfire was a completely brand new and standalone story in the universe of James Bond. And with that came its own unique characters, intro and theme song. I must say it does a really great job of capturing that essence of James Bond, and could have easily made for great content for a movie. So the next morning, Christmas morning, after we've had a mince pie or 2 for breakfast, opened the rest of our presents and started chilling out, my sister asks me, "Can we have a go at the new James Bond?" Heck yeah, we can! You see, last year I genuinely didn't realise how much they'd enjoyed Agent Under Fire. I thought they were just being nice and getting involved in the spirit of Christmas. But it turns out they were both as psyched as me to play Nightfire. Multiplayer in Agent Under Fire was great fun, and it took a lot of inspiration from Goldeneye on the N64. However, the multiplayer mode in Nightfire was even better than Agent Under Fire, thanks to the simple but effective level design and gadgets like the grappling hook, RC tanks and helicopters, and remote-controlled missiles which took inspiration from the Metal Gear Solid Nikita missile. The great thing about the multiplayer mode in Nightfire is that it really plays to its strengths of being a spy game. Some wonderfully snow-covered levels, and running around trying to get the best guns and shoot first is an absolute blast. However, the magic is in sneaking around and trying to drive your mini RC or direct your remote-controlled missile to get that sneaky frag in. You don't take damage if your RC vehicle is hit. However, whilst you're controlling it, you're completely vulnerable and blind to whatever's going on immediately around your character. The only clue is the sniggering of your couch co-op enemy as they sneak up on you, which made for many a hilarious moment where you thought you were being sneaky, flying your helicopter trying to creep up on someone only to get punched in the face. Or you could use your grappling hook to hide in a sneaky corner, waiting for an unsuspecting passerby to get the jump on them. But this time you had to be the one holding back your sniggering as you waited for them to come round the corner. Half the time though we'd completely failed because we just couldn't stop that evil laughter as we were trying to sneak up on each other. You see, that's just what was so much fun about playing 007 Nightfire that Christmas with my sister and brother-in-law. I don't think we stopped laughing the whole entire time. Before and after Christmas dinner, we were just laughing and joking around so much as we experienced each new level and tried to find inventful, crazy and wonderful new ways of catching each other out. To this day, I've always looked back at that Christmas so fondly and wondered if Nightfire is as good as I remembered it. I actually bought it for the GameCube a few years ago and loaded up the multiplayer mode. The character movement was pretty wooden, to be honest, and it didn't have any of that bounce to it that we've come to expect from first-person shooters these days. Also, it felt a bit lonely playing against the AI bots, so I turned it off. But this year, I gave it another go. This time with my 5-year-old son. I told him how I used to love this game and started the multiplayer up so we could have a little quick run around and a play. I didn't really think we'd play it that much as he's never played a first-person shooter before. So I set the handicap mode so I could only take one shot and he could take about 10, showed him the basics of the movement and we started playing. At first it was just what I expected. He was running around looking at the ground and I was pretending to miss my shots. But after about 10 minutes, he actually started to pick things up and I had a bit of a challenge on my hands. Maybe I'd set that handicap a little bit too harshly. Before we knew it, we were zipping around using our grappling hooks, racing to see who could get to the remote missile first, sneaking up on each other and just having an absolute laugh. We played through a bunch of the multiplayer modes, taking on some of the one-on-one deathmatch and some of the team co-op deathmatches as well. And then we decided to give the campaign a go. After getting through the opening sequence and the intro, we moved on to the next level, where you start off in a snowy landscape facing this kind of snow fortress. We snuck around trying to find different ways to get in as we were sneaking up on the guards, laughing as we punched them in the butt, until we realised you could jump into the back of a truck and sneak your way in that way. My son thought this was amazing and was so giddy with excitement and tension as we cruised past the guards. You see, this is the wonderful thing about James Bond Nightfire. Behind a simplistic and one-dimensional shell with wooden controls hides a game that gives you multiple ways to approach a level, thanks in huge part to its understanding of what is fun about being stealthy and sneaking around. That sense of power and control, but still with the tension and nerves that you could actually get caught. It makes it easy and fun to find ways to sneak around and be unseen, but still keeps it challenging so you don't become too complacent. The varied missions from driving to on-rail shooting to first person keeps the action fresh. And the locations tick off everything you want in a spy game, from snowy landscapes to high-rise skyscrapers and to abandoned factories. Not only does it bring this to the single player, but it also brings it to the multiplayer as well, with varied maps and fun and inventive ways to battle. Me and my son completed Nightfire this past weekend as we lead up to Christmas, in an over-the-top finale set in space that you would expect from the James Bond franchise. It was great that he was able to pick up the controls and genuinely become a couch co-op pal. Best of all was the fun and laughs we had playing it. I told him while we were playing of the story with my sister and brother-in-law and how we loved playing it on that Christmas day, and he was so excited to tell his auntie of how he was now playing it and how he was good at it as well, which was absolutely lovely because it brought back all the memories for her too. But little did he know that we were adding to those memories right now, and that is why James Bond Nightfire is one of my favourite games to play around Christmas time and one of my favourite spy games in general.